Welcome to the Vision and Purpose podcast, where we dive deep into the lives of incredible people who have made a mark on the world. Join us as we explore the journeys, stories, and passions of individuals who have achieved extraordinary feats, shattered barriers, and inspired us all. And now your host, Dr. Sharon H. Porter. Hello and welcome to the Vision and Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sharon H. Porter, and today we are featuring Raven Irabor, Pan-African image maker and curator, working at the intersection of media, film, fashion, and art. She is also the founder of Ray Studios. I would like to say, welcome, Ray. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It is indeed a pleasure to have you as guest for this episode, and we can dive into all the amazing work that you are doing. Can you start out by just telling us a little bit about yourself and your background as an artist and curator?
Yes, so I'm originally from the Bronx, New York. I live in LA now. I grew up in a multicultural household. My mom's from Trinidad and my dad's from Nigeria. And growing up in New York and growing up in that household, I was really exposed to the vastness of what Blackness can look like across the diaspora. My parents love to travel, so I've been traveling since I was young. So culture and community has been just like engraved in me since a youth. And again, growing up in New York, with exposed to all these advertising and media images and fashion images, really culminated into who I am as an artist and creative today. And I also give a huge shout out to the Tumblr era. If anyone was a part of the Tumblr scene in New York, knowing that we had these Tumblr meetups where a lot of Black and Brown young kids in high school, middle school, college would meet up in Soho and downtown Manhattan to create, collaborate, and do all those things. So all of that combined really influenced my path into working in media and art and fashion and film. So yeah.
I love that. I really do. So what actually inspired the title, Last Night I Cried, Unveiling Liminal Spaces?
Yeah, so this title is actually inspired by SZA's album. The main title, Last Night I Cried, is actually the first line in her album, SOS. That was an album as I was going through my own breakup that I listened to a lot. It kind of feels like art inspiring art in a way. And her album really was, I think, one of the most like honest and transparent albums when it comes to talking about the array of emotions that one deals with, especially women deals with when they go through heartbreak. And one of the emotions that she really leaned in on in the album was anger, which was an emotion that I did not expect to have. But as I've talked to other women in the development of the exhibition, realized that anger is like a big part of the heartbreak experience. And once you release anger, that kind of allows you to open the doors for healing. So yeah, the first line of the entire album, which she samples from a gospel song that was made in the 1970s, says Last Night I Cried. So I pulled that from there. And then Unveiling Liminal Spaces really explores the idea of luminosity, which is like the gap between what was and what's now. And as we're on our healing journey from dealing with breakups, you're kind of in this in-between space of time where you are like where you were in like the gut and the deep emotions of the breakup. And then as you go on your healing journey, you may cry like 3 days later, and then you may be good a week later, and you may cry again a month later. And it's like the ebbs and flows of healing. So really playing and exploring what does that like that gap between what was and what's now, what does it mean to cry last night versus today, and those nuances between time.
Wow. And I love the fact that you pull out the anger part of that. I think that's always, especially in a breakup, we tend to skip over that,
Yeah.
because that's a large part of the emotion of that.
Yeah.
And so it's good to hear that you captured that through your work. I love that. In addition to those things, what are some of the other main themes and messages that you truly aim to convey through this exhibition?
I really wanted the exhibition to operate as a healing space for women and women of color who've gone through breakups. So the main intention was to use my personal experience with heartbreak to create this space of healing. And with that, we partnered with a nonprofit, She Recovers, and we donated a percentage of the proceeds that we raised to that nonprofit to help women and women of color with mental health resources and self-recovery resources. Because when I was going through my breakup, I had access to free therapy through the job that I was working at that time. And I just know that that's not something, one, that many people in general have access to. And then two, especially women of color, being in those spaces. I was working in tech. So being in those environments, tech environments, there's very few of us in those spaces to be able to then get access to free therapy. And then also seeing throughout my own healing process how many women came and was very empathetic to me in a way that I didn't expect. Like I kind of expected people to be like, okay, you're going through a breakup, sorry to hear, and kind of keep it pushing. But a lot of people was really like emotional and just like, I hope everything's okay. Like, I'm really sorry to hear. Like, I understand what that feels like, and really showed me their heart in a way that I feel like that showed me why community healing is so important. And I think for Black people, especially, like historically, we are community-based people, and we're in a society that really forces us to think very individualistically. So really wanting to use this space again through art, through the different programming that we had, through the nonprofit to really create the space of community healing.
So was the breakup the specific moment or that experience that really influenced this work throughout the display of
Yeah.
the exhibition?
Yeah, I actually, so originally I did this photo shoot and it wasn't going to be an exhibition. I did the shoot as a way to like just express what I was going through, and really this is the most personal work that I've ever done. Really authentic, very cathartic work. So yeah, did the photo shoot, and the intention was to like submit it to a couple fashion magazines, different magazines, to do like an editorial write-up. But as my healing journey progressed, and as I said, I like got a lot of women who were like just talking to me and trying to help me throughout my process. Just realized that this is something that's bigger than me, and this is something that everyone goes through, but there's a lot of shame around heartbreak. It's not something that's normalized in like daily conversation. So from there, wanting to like just expand it and take it from just a photo shoot to a full-on exhibition.
Wow, I think I commend you first of all for that, because it had to be some level of difficulty to be so vulnerable and to be so open with the hurt that you felt, I would imagine.
Yeah, and for this shoot, it was the first time I worked with a somatic intimacy consultant. And that was such a beautiful practice because she really helped me the days leading up to the shoot to really center my emotions. She gave me this book called The Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown. And that book actually also had a large impact on the exhibition. We actually had a quote displayed on the wall from the book.
Mm,
Um, and that book really operates like an atlas, like essentially defines certain emotions so that we can kind of like guide our emotions and really have something to ground ourselves with. And I feel like sometimes when you get a word, it helps you really like identify what you're going through. So at the time, I didn't really like identify I was going through heartbreak, even though it seems like
wow.
obvious. But I didn't identify until I read the chapter on heartbreak. And I was like,
Wow.
this is what I'm experiencing. This is what I'm going through. All the anger, sadness, grief, loss, all those feelings ladder up to heartbreak. So she gave me that book. We kind of like meditated on what that meant for me. She created this playlist. I have a background in dance and she's also a dancer.
Oh,
So
wow.
she gave me this playlist to like meditate on. And then on set, essentially her role was to kind of like get me to go there with the emotions, but not too much where I'm like boo-hooing and like ruining my makeup
Right.
done. Like just get me there right, enough so that I can convey the emotions and the images. I can move my body to the songs and like almost kind of like contemporary dance to like some of the words she was saying from the book along with the music that was playing. So that was really, really emotional because I've never had someone I just met her, honestly. I met her and I was like, wait, actually I'm like doing this shoot. I think this could work based on like what you do. So it was the first time coming across a role like that in production that really cares about, excuse me, that really cares about the emotions and how we're showing up from an intimacy perspective on set. So that was really beautiful, but definitely again, really like
Wow.
vulnerable.
I love that. I love that collaboration, almost on the spot collaboration. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that. So what makes Last Night I Cried Unveiling Limited Spaces an immersive exhibition? Like, can you share some of those interactive or sensory elements that were involved in this exhibition?
Yeah, so other than my work, there are works by three other artists. One of the artists' name is Sarah, who's a New York City-based artist. She's a musician and a multidisciplinary artist. And what I wanted to do, because my main medium is film, and I know how much score and music adds to a film, I really wanted to create essentially a custom score for the exhibition. And my intention was usually when you go to a gallery or museum, you look at the work really passively and you don't really like, you're just like, oh, this is a really cool painting, and you kind of like walk away, but you're really not diving deep into the emotions or just like the messaging of what that painting is trying to convey. And I believe music as a medium really allows people to kind of take it there with the emotions. So we created this custom score, and the intention was when you get into the exhibition, you scan a QR code and you have access to the music that Sarah made. And I encourage people to bring headphones. If they didn't, they can listen to the music on their phone speaker. And they walk through the exhibition space to really kind of like use the music to create the storyline of the emotions. You can see the ebbs and flows of the healing art, because it wasn't like, oh, she's like sad and like now she's happy. We showed the ebbs and flows of what healing looks like, not only through the order of the photography, but through the music as well. The music really did a great job of like, showcasing those ebbs and flows. So that was like I would say the main level of immersion that allowed people to really like dive deep outside of just looking at the work. And then in addition, we had an installation piece by this artist, Tatiana Noel, who's based in LA. And her piece really leaned into the call and response practices of the African diaspora. So as people looked at my work, they eventually went to this other area of the gallery where they interacted with her piece, and it caused people to, after reflecting on the emotions in my story, to reflect on their own story. And she had a prompt and a mirror. So they're literally looking at themselves as they respond to this prompt. And it asks people to really reflect on when was the last time they cried. And they left a note behind into this like box, kind of like leaving their hurt and their feelings and their, the pain behind as they enter this new phase in their healing journey. And the last immersive piece was a short film. And the idea was that, for me, I love the juxtaposition of photography and film. I think photography creates this really like reflective, nostalgic environment, while film can be very like conversational and inclusive. So the film interviewed various women from different age groups and different backgrounds to really show that like heartbreak happens to everyone. So when they walked into this film room, it was like a 3-panel film room, and they really got to immerse themselves into the conversation. And it was very like, it had specific lighting. It was like a whole other world dedicated to the film. So yeah.
Wow, it really sounds like it was an actual healing journey for the audience as well.
Yeah, that was the absolute intention. And
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that actually like cultivated that for people. Like people, I've had great conversation with people who came to the exhibition, and we talked about their own healing journey. And we talked to a woman who recently gone through a divorce, a woman that came back from London, and she had this breakup in London and was just kind of roaming the streets of London trying to figure herself out, and just happened to stumble upon this exhibition,
Wow.
and that helped her with her healing journey. A guy friend of mine was there, and he talked about his own breakup, and like never really took an opportunity to see like how it would impact from a woman's perspective. So it really had people crying. I had friends who, one of the women in the film, they talked about how their father died. So there was people who also was experiencing grief and breakup at the same time that related to that woman's story, and, cried while watching the film. So definitely, I'm just so grateful that like the intention that I wanted when it came to creating a space of healing actually occurred.
Yeah, and that's what it sounds like, that those immersive elements really impacted the audience, and really evoked that emotional response. And if that's what you were going for, kudos to you, because it sounds like you nailed it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, are there any particular artworks or installations within the exhibition that were significant for you? Could you talk about that?
Yeah, I think the most significant, I guess, not only for me, but what I noticed that people really resonated with was the film. Um, and I think it's because when you looked at the photography, you're really seeing me and my story. So it's very like me centric. And the intention was of the film was to really remove the narrative away from myself and to decenter me and to include other women. So I think when people got a chance to really hear the perspectives of different women, a woman who's gone through um, a breakup for the last 10 years, just on and off with this person for the last 10 years and how that's impacted them. Another woman who, like I said, lost their father, but also was going through a breakup with someone who was like an alcoholic. Another woman who was married for like 20 years, they have kids, and had to leave her husband because he was also an alcoholic and just had like, just wasn't creating a great environment for the family. So it was just really beautiful to see how many people really, really resonated with the film. And in fact, something that I didn't expect, once people watched the film, they actually walked around the gallery again because they felt like the film provided a new perspective. So I'm really glad that I ended up doing the film because that was a last minute decision. I shot the film like 2 months before the exhibition launched.
Wow. And so what was the decision making in really deciding the arrangement of the flow at the space? And it was the gallery 90220, is that right?
Yeah, that
So
yeah, Gallery
yeah,
902.
yeah. So how
Um,
was that decided?
yeah, I think the first thing was like the shoot has 3 setups. So I knew that like even the arc of the photo shoot, the story that we told with the photos alone, I kind of had an idea of like which setup we'd show first. But even within each setup, the order of the photos really was, I guess, one, from an aesthetic point of view, what photos look best together, and then two, which photos really showed how do we show the ebbs and flows of these emotions. Like I don't really want it to go from sad to like she's happy, which in the end there wasn't really a happy moment. It was more of like a coming to Jesus, coming to peace with things, and like awaiting what that next chapter looked like is kind of where we ended. But really, as I said, like the aesthetic, what photos look well together, and then how do we show the ebbs and flows, the roller coaster ride of this healing journey from the photography standpoint. And then from the other pieces, I knew that for the music, that needed to be one of the first art piece because that allowed people, once they came into the exhibition, they knew that they needed to scan this QR code in order to have access and really immerse themselves. So we had that first, and then people walked through the space, saw the photography. Once we got to the other side of the gallery, I knew on the other side I wanted to have Tatiana's piece because I felt like, again, like as you went through my emotions, coming across her piece allowed you to like literally reflect on yourself because it's a mirror installation piece. And then the film room was a room that I kind of built with my installer because the gallery doesn't like actually have a film room. They just had this extra room. And again, with my film background, just understanding how lighting works and just like how to really set a mood, I knew that I wanted that room to be like totally isolated, a totally different experience. So we set up this like 3-paneled installation. So when you looked at the film, the 3 panels had like a different image on screen, which kind of gave this more like art house, poetic, experimental kind of edit to this almost like document. The 3 panels really allowed for this experimental creative approach to this docu-style film, which was really nice. And it creates this really unique experience because if I showed it online, you wouldn't really have the same viewing experience as the people who saw it in person. So yeah, that's kind of like the approach to like the setup.
Okay, great. And we've talked a lot about the exhibit itself, but let's talk about you actually getting this whole project together, like actually curating the exhibition. Were there challenges? And if so, how did you overcome them?
Yeah, the biggest challenge was um funding. When I started working on this exhibition, I was working. And with all the media and tech layoffs and budget cuts, I ended up basically my contract getting cut. So I did not have income to actually personally fund this exhibition in the way that I wanted to originally. So I worked with someone to help me get brand partnerships. But again, because of all the media budget cuts, all those things, a lot of these companies did not have the budget to support this exhibition. And a lot of the DEI departments were the first ones cut, and those would be the departments I would want to support minority initiatives. So funding was a really, really hard part of it. I ended up self-funding it, which took a toll on my finances. But it was worth it in the end. I'm a person that believes in investing in your art, investing in your craft. So in the end, I don't regret it, but that definitely was something that I was not expecting to do, especially as a person who is unemployed right now. And then the second challenge, I think, was just like, this is a learning curve for me. This is my first actual exhibition that I've curated. When I was in New York, I've done artist showcases with an organization called The Rue that I was a part of. And I've curated in the sense of like adding art pieces in productions, like photo shoots and films, but not in an official gallery space. So there was a lot of like learning curves that I had to adapt to. And then kind of take these lessons and figure out, okay, how would I want to do this next time? So those were, I would say, the two main challenges.
Okay. Well, what are you most proud of about this exhibition?
I'm just really proud of the fact that people really came into the space and got a sense of community healing. Like for me, the intention was to really decenter me. And even though I'm in the images, so it's kind of hard to decenter me in some ways. I'm just happy that people really like it really impacted them and brought them to another space in their own healing journey. Even the woman that I interviewed for the film, just like where they've transitioned since then and how it's helped them. We took like these beautiful headshots, and one of the women was like, I'm using this for my dating profile for a dating app, just like different things like that helped them. And the conversations that I've had with people and the different programming, like we had our artist talk, and then we had another panel that was about how to use art as a healing modality, with different like incredible women who work in different sectors at the intersection of art and wellness. We had like a mindfulness artist, we had like a self-portrait artist, another photographer. Then we had another programming that was a sound bath and healing circle. So we had a sound bath lead essentially just create this healing environment, this meditative environment for women. And then we also had a curatorial walkthrough with the Women of Black Girls in Art Spaces, which is an incredible organization that really cultivates community throughout the US and I believe internationally for Black women who are interested in the art industry. So we had a beautiful walkthrough and then like a sit down circle where different women came from all backgrounds. One woman was studying psychology. I think we had a writer. One of the women was the one that recently had a divorce. So it was nice to just like have these spaces for organic conversation throughout the exhibition, that really just helped people. Like for me, it was like, okay, we have the work on the walls, that's great, but how can we do the actual like hard work, which is like creating this impact? Because it's again, like the art is meant to help create healing and conversation. Like it's not just about the art.
I love that. And do you often use your modeling experience in conjunction with your art?
Yeah, I like it's weird because I'm like, in some ways, a lot of my work feels like a self-portrait practice, even though I'm not the photographer. And I say that because I tend to be the subject in a lot of my work that I do. Um, like kind of utilizing myself as my own muse in a way. So yeah, and a lot of my modeling experience is seen through my own personal work. And I
Yeah.
think my dance background, it's great to see how I can transition from being a dancer into this
Wow.
space. Yeah.
So has this exhibition influenced your perspective on any of your work or your future projects?
That's a really good question. I think this exhibition showed me um the value of impact through art. I
Mm.
think as artists, we are kind of conditioned to like see ourselves as like the hero piece, meaning like we're centering ourselves, like we want this one, we want to get into gallery, we want to get signed, we want all these things, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that, but I also think that's a kind of like Eurocentric ideology of individualism, because when we go back to like Africa, a lot of the indigenous artworks were very community oriented. Um, so I think it has really made me see how I can use my art for greater impact, greater conversation, um, and community building. Even though, again, there's still elements of like, I want these accolades and I want to achieve these things,
Right.
you know,
Of course.
too, yeah. But yeah, definitely seeing how art truly, again, can be a healing modality and like can create um, conversations and normalize things that tend to be things that we're ashamed about. And even this exhibition was like unexpectedly like a healing space for me too. Like I was so
Yeah.
focused on helping other people that I didn't think that it would trigger my own like issues with my breakup that I had. I didn't think I'd be like revisiting emotions. But it was interesting to kind of have that happen to me as well. So yeah.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
Next, I'm moving back to New York City, which I'm really excited about. I'm excited to
Okay.
be in a space where I can kind of take like my artistic practice to a different level, which is exciting, and kind of get back into more of like the fashion and art and film intersection. I think in LA, which has been, I've been here for almost 6 years and
Wow.
it's been an incredible time, but I feel like I want to like get back into the hustle and bustle. I'll also get back to the community and family. Like I moved out here and I don't have any family in LA.
Mm.
Me and my friend moved out here together and it's been beautiful. But one of the women who was in the Black Girls in Art Spaces, um, I'm a person that like I'm very hands-on with everything that I do, and I know my intention for everything that I'm doing. So because of that, I don't tend to like enjoy when people interpret my work for something I didn't intend for it to communicate.
Hmm.
Um, but she had such a beautiful interpretation of one of the first set of images, and she was like that the images have chairs. They have these empty chairs, and I'm kind of like um, posing in between these chairs. And she said that for her, it represented when you're in a relationship, you build this community. You and your partner have friends together. You go to these events together, and their friends become your friends and things like that. But when the breakup happens, it kind of feels like it's just these empty chairs,
Yes.
and that community is gone. So that's also something that I've had to grapple with. It's like adapting to LA, which took like 2, 3 years to adapt, and getting into this relationship. And it's like, okay, I have this community. And then the relationship is over. And it's like, okay, I don't have this community that I thought that I did, or
Mm.
my community is shifting. Um, so kind of all of that's culminated. That's like, okay, I want to go back home. I want to be with my community, my people. And I'm grateful for the community that I do have here that has supported me in my artistic practice. But yeah, when she said that, I was like, yeah, like you do feel like the empty chairs of the
Empty
people
chairs. Wow.
that you had in your life that's now gone because that person is no longer in your life.
Wow. That's deep, actually. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, girl, you hit it on the
Right.
money.
Oh my God. Well, Raven, this has been so amazing. And I know the exhibition was just amazing. I think it was, how long was it there at the
Three
studio?
weeks at Gallery 90220, and then my
Yes.
goal is to actually bring it to New York. I'm not sure
Oh,
when
that
I
would
want
be
to.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I truly thank you for coming and just sharing, giving us a glimpse of the
Mhm.
exhibition. So please share with our viewers and our listeners where they can contact you, where they can connect and follow you, and just stay abreast of all of your updates.
Yeah, you can follow me at Raven Charisse on Instagram. That's RavenCherisse. You can follow my creative studios, Ray Studios. We offer creative direction, directing, content strategy services. That's around culture and community. And our Instagram is at Ray Studios _. And then you can check out my work at www.ravenirabor.com.
Awesome. Well, again, I just want to say thank you for being our guest today. I want to thank you just for your commitment to the arts. I love it. So thank you. And to our viewers and our listeners, we thank you as well. We thank you for coming on this journey with us to explore our guests' vision and purpose. Your vision is the compass guiding you through life, and your purpose is the fuel that propels you forward. Keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep pursuing your purpose. Every step you take brings you closer to the fulfillment of that purpose. I am your host, Dr. Sharon H. Porter, and until next time, live life with vision and purpose. Thank you for joining another episode of Vision and Purpose Podcast. Please share, like, and subscribe. Please join us every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time.